everyone, and welcome back to the Coach Dave Academy Gran Turismo channel. I'm Martin Grady, otherwise known as Tisney, and once again I'm going to take you through this week's Gran Turismo daily races. First up then, we're looking at Daily Race A. So for Daily Race A, we're in a Maserati Gran Turismo, an unbelievably good looking car. Now at Sardinia Layout C, which is an unusual layout. It's very small, compact, but there are some tricks here that you can do to get you up that leaderboard and qualify towards the front of the grid. Let's jump into this guide then. I'll take you through a very detailed lap guide. We'll then go into a quick lap and we'll have a look at some Delta data afterwards to see if I can improve that little bit more. I'm currently rank 1 in the world. Let's jump into it and let me tell you how to do Sardinia in the Maserati Gran Turismo. So here we are down the start-finish straight. We're on the right-hand side. We've just come out of the last corner, which we'll get to shortly. We're going to head up this hill and go over the crest of the hill. And our first point of focus is on that right-hand side here. We've got this red painted barrier. It's just before the 100 board, which you could see in the shadows just past it. Now, for this brake marker, literally, if you're just going a bit too deep on this corner, just bring it back before. You can see I've just braked in just before it hits the edge of my screen on the right-hand side. Now, as we're going downhill, if you try and even remotely outbrake yourself, obviously that's going to just expand your braking zone quite dramatically. I want you to follow the red and white curbing all the way down. You're going to drop down to second gear. Now, I found actually braking a little bit earlier for this corner and just taking it nice and easy was better for the exit. So I highly advise you do this now. Notice how I drop to second gear. I start to release the brakes and I start to turn in. I don't go over the curb. I just touch it. Now, this corner is cambered. So I instantly go on throttle. I have a little bit of a wiggle on the exit, but I managed to catch it and keep the car going straight and true. You do rev this car like into the nuts. Like literally we're heading towards 8,000 RPM. So make sure you do that. Speaking of which, I'm not going to go to fourth gear here. I'm going to stay in third gear. I'm going to hit the rev limiter because I'm going to hit literally the bottom of that chart there. So over 8,000, we hit the limiter, but it doesn't matter. Because if it had changed to fourth, we'd only be going back to third in under a second later. Now, because we've stayed in third, the car is a bit more balanced. We're looking for this 50 board here. We're braking just before we get to that 50 board. Now, we're going to hit the brakes initially and then instantly start to release the brakes as we turn in. When we do that, what's going to happen is the rear of the car is going to rotate. But we actually want that. We want a little bit of rotation. This car has a lot of weight transfer, okay? So if we can get that initial weight transfer, the car's just going to rotate a little bit. It'll do like a four-wheel drift and we'll be fine. Notice here what happens. Release the brakes. The car instantly wants to go in now. We go on throttle there to balance the car. Our wheels went over the curb. It's fine to do that on that corner. And then we use all of the track on the exit. Make sure we don't go four wheels onto the grass. As we go down here, as we go over the crest of the hill, we go up to fourth gear and we let off the throttle a little bit there to get the car turned in. Then accelerate down the hill. Notice how we're trying to straighten this as best as we can. We get very close to the wall but miss it. As we go through here, I want to straighten up the car now as best as I can. The reason for that, because there's a lot of lefts and rights and lefts and rights, what happens is with the extreme weight transfer of this car, it turns into a Scandinavian flick. So you need to straighten up the car as best as you can. So we get to this point here where the curb is on the left hand side, and all we're going to do here is lift off and turn in. Now, what you will want to do here a little bit is apply a tiny bit of throttle. So when I say lift off, you might want to lift off completely initially and then just go like 10% or 20% throttle. That's absolutely fine. The critical part here is turning in. We don't want to be aggressive now. It's all about preparing for the last corner. So I'm going to lift off here. Notice I'm down to what? 5% throttle there even. I've dropped to third gear now. And what's going to happen here is the car's going to want to then turn towards the right-hand side. Now, we're already at this point here where our brake markers are. So we've got the end of the curb on the right. We also have the orange painted barrier there. That's like stopping the gap essentially on that right-hand side. These are two good brake markers. Arguably, it's just when you can get straight here. Now, critically, because we're going over the right here, what will happen is the weight's going to transfer. You need to get the car straight. Get the car straight as quick as possible. If you have to overlay, which is hard on the brakes, a little bit of throttle, do it. You need to stop any form of oversteer. So we're on the brakes right now. Notice here I'm going in a straight line. I then can start to release the brakes and the car will want to turn left. And that's what I do right now. I stay in second gear. I don't go over the curb there. I do like clip it, but I don't want to go over it because otherwise the bounce will cause the car to get very unstable. And then I'm going to use all of the track on the exit there. Really maximizing the revs as well. And then we can head towards the line. Very critical for that last corner you get the car just pointing in a straight line. No turning, straight line, hard braking. Remember, you can overlay there. That was a 58.642. As we're going to go into a fast lap now, remember, just before the 100 board on the right is a red paint barrier. We're going to hit the brakes, drop down to second gear now. As we get towards the end of the curve, release the brakes, turn in. Don't go over the curb, just get close to it. Start to accelerate. Be careful, power oversteer on the exit. Very common to happen. However, if you know what's going to happen, you can turn into it a little bit. You can predict it. Stay in third gear now. We're going to look for the 50 board. We're braking just before we get to the 50 board on the right hand side. As we release, the car will turn in. Let the car roll, bounce the throttle a little bit here on the car as we continue on through. Use all the track. We're going to go to fourth gear early here. Lift off as you turn in, then get straight here, and now minimize any transition of weight there. Straighten the car as much as you can. Over towards the left, end of the curve. We're going to lift off, turn in now, and then the end of the curve on the right. We're going to hit the brakes. Brake in a straight line. Critically brake in a straight line. Release the brakes. We then can start to turn. Car rotates a little bit. We go on throttle. We're going to straighten up the car as best as we can. Use all of the track on the exits, and then head towards the line. That is a 58.6 here at Sardinia Layout in the Maserati. Let's go to Delta. So, during the filming of this, I got knocked off the top spot in terms of rank 1 in the world. So, I've loaded rank 1 in the world here then. It's by a player called Diddy. Now, what we're going to do is compare the lap and find out where we need to improve to make sure, or to see, where we can actually get that time back and become rank 1 once again. It's also where potentially you can improve on your lap. So, let's have a look at this one then. Starting off straight away here as we head down towards turn number 1 then, and we're going to head towards the braking zone. So at this moment in time, I'm actually a little bit up here. Sorry, I'm a little bit down, sorry. And the reason for that is because I've been doing continuous laps, and potentially if you don't go for a good run at the last corner, you'll be down on time. And that is quite clear there. I've lost a little bit of time. So as we go into here then, we're a little bit down, but as we go through this corner, are we up by the end of it? Yes, we are. We're up. So we actually do that corner very well indeed. Now in terms of middle of the corner, apex speed, we are just carrying that tiny bit more speed as we continue on through here. We do lose a bit then on the exits, but then we gain a bit more then. So for me, I do that corner a little bit better. So I'm doing turn 1 quite well here. I'm going to head towards the fast left. So for this one, does Diddy change gear? Diddy does change gear here then. I don't change gear. The question is, does that cost me some time? And arguably it cost me some time on the entrance to the corner, because obviously I'm going slower. But for me, on the exit, I'm actually going much quicker. And the reason for that is it's better to have a faster exit than it is the entrance, because the car was more balanced. I believe third gear is better there. It may not look like it on Delta, but Delta tells the full story. Remember, we're looking at this from before the corner, so we're 200ths up. By the time you get to here, the middle of the corner, we're 300ths down. But by the end of the corner, we're nearly 6 tenths up. Sorry, I need to zoom back out here. We're nearly 6 tenths up. So for me, that is critical in all of this, right? So we're going to head down here then. And now I changed gear early. Notice here, I'm up 4th gear here. We're 700ths up at that point, okay? But as we turn down here, we lose a lot of time. So Diddy stays in 3rd for longer. And that means they're carrying much more speed. Look at that, because you do rev this car. So short shifting, critical. So we actually lose a lot of time there going uphill. And arguably, that's where all the time here is lost. We're going to go to the brakes now. So we're 300ths down. And on the exit, we're still 300ths down. So the only place we lose time is by short shifting. Now, I still advise that you short shift if you just want a steady run through the S's here, going downhill. If you don't want to do that, you want to go for the rank 1 time, better not to short shift. We've just seen that right here. Something I've learned and something I may use on the lap going forward to get myself back to that rank 1 spot. Very interesting, Sardinia. So the 2 things I would take away from here is stay in 3rd gear before the fast left. Yes, you can go to 4th and you may be a slightly bit quicker, but your exit may be slower. Stay in 3rd gear there. Highly advise that. And as you go down here, I would short shift for stability. However, 3rd gear is better. So make sure you rev the nuts out of the Maserati. That's what we've learned here from this Delta data. That's it for Daily Race A then. What we're going to do now is jump to Daily Race B, where we're going to head to a circuit we don't really use very often. Arguably, it's every other year we use it. It's Blue Moon Infield A, but in reverse. And for this one, we're in Group 4 machinery. I wonder which car I chose. So here we are down the start-finish straight at Blue Moon Bay Infield A reverse. And if you guess the GT by Citroen, well played to you. Obviously, this car is very strong in Group 4, and it's very strong here as well, using +5 brake balance that you can see in the right-hand side. Now, as we go into this one, I like to wide the line in for this corner so I can get nice and tight here in the middle of this banking. Now, as I go through here, the car's going to understeer out wide. And what I'm going to start to do is when I see that yellow to blue transition on the right side is I'm going to lift. Now that's also our brake marker, but that's when it gets close to the edge of our screen. Now the reason we lift here is we want to get the weight to settle in the car. If you think about it, when you're accelerating, the front's lifted. If you lift off, the car starts to balance, and then when you go on the brakes, obviously you'll be able to turn that a little bit better. If you go straight onto the brakes, it's going to take time to get on there, and you normally end up hitting the wall. So what you want to do here is literally lift, then go onto your brakes. You're going to trail brake here as well. You don't want to go fully on the brakes here. So notice the trail braking. We're going to get close to the wall. We drop to 4th gear and then turn in. And you really need to cut the inside here, okay? All of that curb counts as track, so make sure you use it. And you can see there we accelerated through. Using the curbs here is an advantage because they're very grippy, so they can pull cars round. Now, behind my head, you will see the start of the curb. That is your first brake marker. Alternatively, on the far side of the circuit, there is a barrier gap. That is your second brake marker. You can use either of these two. Arguably, I brake in the middle, and I was really more focused on the gap in the barrier on the right-hand side. Now, this is a double apex corner. What do I mean by this? I mean, what this is you're going to go in. It's like a 90 degree, then a 90 degree. But you keep it as one corner, but you want to hit both apexes. Watch how I do. I'm going to hit the brakes. I'm going to point towards the corner, and I'll drop to 2nd gear, and then I come in. And I'm going to clip the curb, and notice it goes straight, and then I'm going to come back and hit the 2nd curb. But I missed it. So, I lost a little bit of time there. I really need to make sure I clip it. Head over towards the right-hand side then. And what we're going to be looking for next is the marshals there. There's loads of them. Look, they're having a party on the right-hand side. You're going to brake just before you get to these marshals. Now, I tried a couple of lines for this corner. The best one, in my opinion, is a tight line. Keep it nice and tight on the inside. I tried to triangle it, square it off, tried wide line and coming back. Doesn't work. Nice tight line. The curb grips the car, so it will rotate it a little bit, and that's what you want here. So it's going to be a 2nd gear corner, this one, in the Citroen. It might vary in a different Group 4 car, but this appears to be the best car here. So I want you to trail brake all the way into the corner now. Notice I'm trail braking, trail brake, trying to slow the car down here, trying to get it to clip the curb. Do I clip it? There we go, I clip it. The car will want to rotate. Just try and straighten up a little bit. There is no exit curb, so you do have to be careful of that grass, okay? But try and straighten up the car. Most cars will want to oversteer. If you just straighten up a little bit, the car should just grip itself. These cars don't have a lot of power in them, so in terms of power oversteer, it should be very minimal. I'm going to head over towards the right-hand side now, and on the left, we've got these lampposts, okay? And I'm picking out that one there. That's the second to last one on the left-hand side. As I hit the edge of your screen, I want you to hit the brakes. You're going to drop down to 4th gear, and I want you to turn in. You might remember turn 2, where we cut the inside on the inside of the curb. It's exactly what you're going to do here. In fact, it's what you're going to do on a number of corners now at the end of this track. So, second to last lamppost left-hand side. Chase cam has better markers. You've got the orange paint bar on the right. You've got the start of the tyre wall as well. But I'm focused on left-hand side, that lamppost right there. So, I'm going to hit the brakes, drop to 4th gear, and I'm going to turn in. I'm going to let the car roll a little bit as it goes through this corner. Once I get to the curb, I start to accelerate. We're then going to go into a right-hander, but I want to go out wide for this right-hander. So notice that I was turning left, even though it's right-hander. I come out wide. I lift off a little bit to try and get the car to turn in because I want to do what I did on the previous corner, use all the curb on the inside to get the car to rotate a little bit. I'm actually going to clip the barrier there. That cost me a little bit of time. We'll see if we can see how much time in Delta. But we're going to come towards the final corner now. This is a very tricky corner because it's all about weight transfer in the car. Now, the Citroen does this corner very well. So on the left-hand side, you got all these billboards. The very first one is your brake marker, okay? So as it hits the edge of your screen, you're going to hit the brakes. You're going to drop down to 4th gear. Now, as the banking sort of hits the flatness of the infield there, what's going to happen is the car's weight is just going to shift very extreme. You need to make sure you're not doing that much in the car when it hits that. So the car then just rotates because all you're going to be doing is turning. Watch what's going to happen here as we go onto the brakes. And watch here now. We want to release it. And then there we go. Notice the releaser. The weight already transitioned. We released the brakes. The car continued that transition. It spiked a bit more. Then we can accelerate all the way through the corner. That's what I'm trying to do here. We come back onto the oval then, and we can head towards the line. Now, you don't over-rev this car. That's something very critical here. Don't over-rev it. As the bar hits the end, change gear. And that is a 113.404. So we're going to go into a fast lap now. We'll just do it live as it happens. +5 brake balance. We're going to go in another slightly wider line here as we come into this oval. I'm looking for the yellow to blue transition. We lift now, and then we're going to hit the brakes as it hits the edge of our screen. We go through the corner, cutting the inside there. Looking for the gap in the barrier on the right-hand side. We're going to hit the brakes. Remember, this is a double apex corner. Get the car turned in, clip it, and keep it nice and tight. Clip the second one. If you can, straighten up. Best you can, head over towards the right side. Just before the marshals, you're going to hit the brakes. Second gear, trail brake all the way in. Clip the curb on the inside, and then just be careful of oversteer on the exit by straightening up the car. We're going to continue on through here, sticking towards that right-hand side of the circuit. What we're looking for is the second lamppost, second to last lamppost on the left-hand side. There it is. Hit the brakes, turn in, let it roll, clip the curb, start to accelerate. Head over towards the left a little bit, then go towards the right. One transition, lift off a little bit to get the car to rotate. The weight's already over there as we continue towards the final corner. Start at the billboards on the left. We're going to hit the brakes. Start to release the brakes to get to that bump. That's how we release it. Car turns, clip the curb, start to accelerate through. You should be able to do that flat out, but it depends on the weight transition and how the car rotates. Once again, that's a 113.404. We're going to have a look at Delta here because I want to know how much time I actually lost hitting that barrier. So once again, I have loaded rank 1 on the leaderboard, which is effectively 1/10 of a second ahead of my lap, as they've got a 0.3 and I've got a 0.4. So where do I lose the time? Let's learn and find out together. We can already see at the bottom where we lose time. So it looks like sector 1, but let's have a look in detail where we actually do lose it then. So we're going to continue here on the straight as we head towards the oval here. As we go into the oval then, we are basically even. We're still even as we get to this point here. So they're taking a slightly wider line as we go into here. And as we go, do you know what? I've actually attacked this corner a bit more than they have. They lift off a little bit earlier, but I did talk about that lift off being very critical. They've lifted off a bit earlier. I've gone a bit more aggressive. I've then hit the brakes. We've gone through the corner, and I lose a 10th of a second there. And that's because I went a bit too aggressive. And I talked about that in the lap guide. So don't go too aggressive into the sharp right-hander. Make sure you lift off. That lift off is so critical in this lap. And it's clear to see. I've lost all my time in the lap on that very part there. You know, I'm a 10th and a half down. Arguably, I'm only 10th behind. So if I'd have done that, I'd be rank 1 still. So somewhere where I need to improve. Very interesting indeed. Right, we're going to head towards the hairpin then. The double apex one. As we go through there, I gained a bit of time back there. I should do that corner very well indeed. So let's have a look in the middle of this corner. We're going to get towards the exit. And we're matching speed. Oh, just on the exit. They've gone slightly tighter there. Notice how much more of the circuit I've used there. You can see the yellow dotted line. So just because I've used a bit more of the circuit, I managed to straighten up the car and carry that bit more speed. So it's something for you to use and carry there in your laps. So we're going to head towards the left hand now. This is a very sharp hairpin. As we come into here, notice how tight I keep it. I keep a very nice tight line here. And I that's the one I suggest. So we're 700th down. As we go through there, I lose a bit of time there. So arguably, slightly wider initially. They've gone for a slightly later apex, which has allowed them to straighten up. So as we go through here, we get to the exit. Yeah, they've just got more speed on the exit. And that's arguably because I'm worried about touching that grass. Whether it's faster or not, I don't know, but according to Delta, it's faster to go for a wider line to come back. So something I need to learn then, because I assumed it didn't work at the time. My lap's still very good, so a tight line definitely does work here, and we can definitely see that. Obviously, a very wide line going back to square it off definitely doesn't work, because both lines are very similar. So we're going to continue on through here, so we're 1.5 temps down effectively again as we head towards this left-hander. We're going to... Oh, so we got on the brakes first here. And we are now nearly 2 tenths of a second down there. So we actually do lose a little bit of time going through that corner. So in the middle of the corner, we are 2 miles an hour down. So I need to carry more speed there. It looks like they've actually got a bit tighter than I have. So again, somewhere I need to improve. Or is it a case of I go too aggressive? They go too aggressive. Let's have a look here. As we go through the right. No. So somewhere I need to improve there. So I've lost a lot of time in this lap in places. I must gain a lot of this back here on this last corner. Obviously, I hit the barrier there, and that barrier did cost me... so it's about here, isn't it? So it cost me half a tenth, basically. Just under half a tenth. Now, as we come into here, notice how wide I take my line versus that yellow dotted line there. So I go for a wider line in here. So as we go through this corner, they've tried to carry more speed initially. Look at the speed difference now. Look at the speed difference. It's massive here. 1.5 miles an hour as we go through there. And that's just going to help me all the way down the straight. And you can see me gain time there all the way down there. And that's just a slightly wider line. And that is a line I highly recommend for that last corner. It's when I was practicing. You saw how close I got to that outside. That bounce. And then you just take it nice and flat all the way through there. And I carry the speed. And obviously, if you carry the speed then, you go to the next lap and you'll be even quicker. Because you're carrying all that speed and momentum. Critically though, somewhere where I wanted to focus on a bit more is this lift off here. You can quite clearly see they lift off well before I do, and that gives them a 10th and a half straight off the bat. It gives them the lap. And the other thing here is the hairpin. I maybe just need to just widen it a little bit, not quite as tight, but keep it still, you know, on the inside there. So 2 areas I need to improve on. Does it help you? I believe it will. That information itself, especially the lift-off back here. This lift-off is critical to start the lap. So make sure you get that right. Also, focus on the last corner, that line there. Really interesting that my line works so well. I highly recommend you use it. That's it for Daily Race B then. So for Daily Race C, we visited the circuit last week, believe it or not, in the Mazda 12Rs. This week, though, we're going slightly bit quicker because we are in Group 1 and we are at Daytona Road Course. So straight into this lap then, we're going to head over towards the right-hand side. And oh yes, I'm in the Peugeot L750R Hybrid VGT there that I've pointed out. +5 brake balance as well in this car and the Genesis. Now in terms of the Genesis, if you want brake markers, the flag indicator and the white line there, really good brake markers for the Genesis. However, we're interested in the sort of paddock, the end of the buildings there on the left-hand side, where there's a little bit of a visual there in terms of viewership of the race. We're looking at that part there because as that hits the edge of your screen, that's when you're going to brake. You can also use the shadow across the circuit if you so wish, but I want you to turn towards the corner now, and you're going to be last late brakers and brake in a straight line. And when you start releasing the brakes, the car will want to turn in. Notice that I've got to first gear. Be careful about turning in too early. You don't want to hit the pit wall there. I short shift to second gear and I instantly go on throttle. That's to get the car rotated a little bit. Then the hybrid kicks in, and you do have to be careful of this hybrid because what will happen is the car will start to understeer because there's so much power going to those wheels. Now we get to this point here where the one board is on the right hand side. This is your brake marker for multiple cars, the Genesis and this Peugeot right here. I often find in Group 1, a tighter line is better because you just want to get out of the corner as quick as possible because of the hybrid. If you can get out of this corner and just accelerate away using the hybrid, you're flying. You're absolutely flying. So I would aim for a tighter line. I can't remember if I just go a little bit deep here or not, but we'll find out as we go through this lap. The one board is my brake marker, though, on that right-hand side, and I'm just going to hit the brakes. I'm going to drop the first gear once again, and I'll short shift to second gear. Here we go. So hard on the brakes, start to release. Yes, I've got a bit too deep here. I'm trying to get the car rotated. Notice how long I have to stay off throttle because of that. I'm then careful on the exit there. I was about 80% throttle for a little bit. I use all of the circuit over the white line just to make sure the car gets straight and I don't get too much power oversteer. We now accelerate towards the kink here at Daytona Road Course. We're going to turn left here. We can clip the curb on the inside. This is flat out here. And we're going to head to our next brake marker. Now, our next brake marker is the same in multiple cars here. We have this dark patch of tarmac on the left, and then we have the curb just returning to the circuit in the distance. Either of these two basically are your brake markers. The dark patch is your first part of your brake marker. So if you're in a really fast car with bad brakes, this is where you brake. If you're in a car that can brake much later, like the Peugeot, you're aiming towards the curb. You just be in the middle of these two in terms of a brake marker, and you should make this corner absolutely fine. Similar to the previous corner, nice and tight if you can do this one, because it's all about getting out of this corner as quick as possible. So hard on the brakes now, brake in a straight line. We're going to drop to first gear. We'll start to release the brakes now. The car will want to turn in. We'll let the car roll a little bit with short shift to second gear. We start to accelerate. Notice that we're about 60%. That was just to try and get the car around. We start to accelerate, and instantly the car wants to understeer. That's the hybrid coming in. We do have to be careful of that. We head over towards the right-hand side then. We go past a yellow curb, which is what you would use in the Genesis, and we get to this point here where the track veers off to the right-hand side. We're not going that way, but it's a really good brake marker, and this is what I use. Now, in the Peugeot, if you do mount the curb on the left a little bit, it seems to bounce in a really weird way. The suspension doesn't like the curb on the inside, so you do have to be careful about cutting the inside of this corner a bit too much. However, what I want you to do here is hit the brakes, brake in a straight line, and then instantly start to release the brakes. You need to make sure you do get very close to the curb on the inside. But what I'm saying here is don't go over the curb, okay? So we're going to hit the brakes here. Second gear, first gear. Do we go over the curb or do we clip it? We clip it, exactly how I said. Second gear, short shift. Notice there, I'm just balancing the throttle a little bit just because I don't want the car to power oversteer. And also in the Peugeot, you can suffer with some understeer into the barrier when the hybrid's really kicking in. So do be careful of that. We're now on the banking, so we can put this to 100% speed as we head towards the bus stop chicane. Now with the bus stop chicane, obviously at that point in time, the brake marker coming up, the car's going to be very different. If you're in a 787B, you're braking very early, potentially at the 2 board. If you're in the Genesis, you're braking at this flag indicator that I've highlighted right there. In the Peugeot, which is the car we're in right now, you're actually getting very close to the 1 board. Just before the 1 board is when you're going to hit the brakes. You want to carry as much speed as possible through this chicane. This car is very good at turning, so that's why you brake a little bit later. Now, you're going to drop to third gear for this one. You're going to go hard on the brakes, release the brakes, turn in. You're going to go on the yellow curb, and then you're going to dab the brakes again to go right. And the reason for that dab is to get the weight transferred so you can go right and make sure you don't understeer on the exit. Watch what I do then. So I've just explained it in person. So as we brake now, third gear, we start to release the brakes. Look at this. We go over the curb. We're going to dab the brakes again and go towards the right. The car now wants to turn. We let the car roll a little bit. We make sure we're going to hit the curb there, and we accelerate out. If you cut too much, it will invalidate the lap and the next one, so be careful of that. However, we go aggressive there. We accelerate out of the corner, and we're going to head towards the line. Now, from memory, this was a 0.746, I think it was, and the leaders are now in the 0.5 area, so there's a little bit of time there to improve for myself. I know there was time to improve there. I give myself a time limit here on these. What we're going to do now is go to a fast lap. So here we go then. Remember, we're going to brake after this, just before the shadow, where the grandstand was on the left-hand side, we hit the brakes. First gear, short shift to second. Be careful on the exit. The car will want to rotate a little bit. Just be careful that understeer as well. Over towards the left-hand side, the one board on the right, hit the brakes. Brake, brake, brake. First gear. We go a bit too deep here. Arguably, this is where we lose a little bit of time. Second gear on the exit, accelerate out. Use all of the circuit to make sure you straighten up the car. Head over towards the right-hand side. The kink is flat out. Remember that. When we're through the kink, looking for the black patch, and as the curb returns, brake anywhere in between these two. There we go. Happy days. First gear braking as we go into here up to second gear. Now be careful on the exit. Very easy to understeer off here. So if you are going to understeer, just back off to 80% throttle. Over towards the right-hand side. As the track veers off, we're going to hit the brakes. Don't go over the curb on the inside. Just clip it. Second gear. Be careful on the exit. Get over towards the inside now. We go onto the banking. I'm going to fast forward this bit then, and we're looking for the flag indicator and the one board here in terms of brake markers. There's 3, there's 2, there's flag indicator, there's the one, hit the brakes, third gear, over the curb then, dab the brakes, over towards the right side, let the car roll, make sure you get through the understeer, and then continue onto the banking, and then we can accelerate all the way to the line. Very fast lap, very interesting lap as well. Let's jump into some Delta data now though, because Delta is where we're going to try and find out where you can gain that little bit more time. Okay, so once again, I've loaded the fastest lap on the leaderboard. I'm pretty sure it was Damien's, who is a Dutch driver, very quick driver as well. And it's essentially 3 tenths quicker than me. So there's quite a bit of time to find here. So let's find that time, and hopefully that will help with both your laps and mine. Let's kick it off then, shall we? So we're going to head through turn 1, and we're going to go straight onto the brakes here. So as we go through that, well, I mean, there's was it nearly a tenth? Half a tenth in it. As we get a little bit through that corner, it's 1.5 tenths, but I get a better exit there, it looks like. Look at the speed I'm carrying, in fact. So yeah, I take a slightly wider, no, I take a slightly tighter line here. In fact, I take a tight line. Look at this. This is very interesting indeed. So as we get to the middle of this corner here, and yeah, so Damien's initially carrying more speed, but do I get on power early? Yeah, I just get on power that a little bit earlier. I must get a tiny bit better rotation. And I just carry more speed on the exit. That's really interesting indeed to see that. It really is. Right, so we're going to head towards the right-hander then. So we're half tenth down at that moment in time. So we're not doing too badly there. We leave that corner and we lose a little bit of time here. I'd say that's nothing major, to be honest with you. If you remember, I did go a little bit deep, and you can see that on the there as well. The yellow line is just a bit tighter than mine, and that's where I said you do need to go tighter on these corners. So that makes sense there. I'm not losing too much time in sector 1, in my opinion. A little bit on this corner, but I think that is just more me needing to improve. So everything's all good up to that point then. So we're going to go through this left-hander there, the kink. Going to head into this braking zone here then. So as we go into here, we were half tenth down basically, and as we leave this corner, we're even, oh no, yes, we are a little bit up actually. We're a little bit up, so we do that corner very well as well then. Where do we lose all our time here? This is very interesting indeed. So we're going to come into here. So we're 600ths down, and we'll leave there arguably 300ths down because it keeps jumping up and down. And that's because of the replay capture. The way Gran Turismo replays work, by the way, when you watch them, just to highlight this, if you watch a replay, the inputs of the driver are actually delayed, only fractionally, but they are delayed. So if you see the braking zone, you see them go on the brakes, you're like, how did they brake so late? They haven't. They broke like 10 meters earlier. You just don't see it on the replay. So that's the way the data is stored in the replay. Just a FYI there for people. So as we go into this left-hander, we're not really that far down at this moment in time. We've done the infield very well indeed. So we're going to go on the brakes here. As we go through here, we lose a little bit of time there, don't we? We lose half a tenth there in terms of time. So they've gone a little bit tighter as they've come out the corner, and they're carrying more speed. So that's critical there. So they've got that corner bang on the money. I haven't. I was a bit nervous going into that corner. I talked about the bump on the inside. So quite clearly there, they've taken a better line. So if we zoom in a little bit here, you can see actually they've taken a slightly wider line in and had a better line on the exit. So that's somewhere where I need to improve there. They've been a bit more confident going through that corner. And they've just carried the speed there. They really have just carried the speed. And that's critical in the lap. So they're going to gain time all the way down here. Look at that. So essentially they gained a 10th in all of that. But we still have 2 tenths to find. So I guess it's in the bus stop chicane. Let's find out. So as we come into here then, we hit the brakes well before they do. They brake last and late breakers there. That instantly gets them half a 10th going through here. Now, is it a case of... Ah, yes. Okay. Very interesting indeed. So I had to just look at that myself. I don't look at these beforehand, by the way, folks. So as we come into here, so I'm not carrying as much speed here as we go through this first part. As we go through the second part, I'm carrying much more speed. So in that sense, I was just lifting and going through the corner, whereas they've gone down a gear, which is why they've actually dropped a lot of speed there through engine braking. But what's happened there is they've managed to get the car rotated, so that's slowing down. They've managed to get the nose rotated. So on the exit, they're just carrying more speed at that point. And then the hybrid comes in, and look at this. They're flying then at that point. And they're going to carry all that speed all the way to the line. So they do that very well. So it's one of those, again, where I've come in. I've slowed down the car enough, but then I've just rolled. But that change of gear, that downshift, and we talked about it in the lap, going into the lower gears helps the car get around these corners. It's why we're going into first gear, then short shift into second. Drop down to second in the bus stop chicane, apparently, actually helps you get the car rotated. So something for you to take into your laps going forward, and something maybe I should try, jump back in and see if my lap improves that a little bit more. So that is a very interesting look at Delta once again. We found out some very interesting information here in terms of daily race C there. Using the lower gears does work out very well indeed. And I lose most of my time in 2 corners, and 2 very important corners as well. That's going to be it for me now, folks. I've been Martin Grady, otherwise known as Tidgney. In terms of comments, make sure you leave them down below. We can answer all your questions, all your interests there in terms of daily race A, B, and C. We are going to be looking at these daily races going forward again. And make sure you do check out that Delta app, because it is vital to find those tenths of a second. You've just seen that throughout this video as well. A big thank you for watching as always, and make sure you are subscribed to the Coach Dave Academy Gran Turismo channel, and I hope to see you in another weekly race guide very soon on the channel, and hopefully you're going up those leaderboards and, all importantly, those DR ranks.